going on there, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's our weekly live stream where we talk about news, current events, politics, philosophy, and of course our movie review. And with me, as ever, is the homeboy Rob.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Lots of things to talk about, not least of which is, of course, to remind you, our movie review, and tonight will be the last night of Memory March, and tonight we'll be reviewing Memories of Murder from 2003, I believe.
We watched different films then.
Did we?
Yes, we were supposed to be doing Memoir of a Murderer.
Oh, damn it.
Well, now, don't worry. I have seen Memories of Murder, so we can talk about that if you'd like. Okay. But it doesn't necessarily fit into our theme because...
That's... Okay, that makes sense, because... I was like, how the hell does this have to do with memory?
No, it was Memoir of a Murderer, which is also a Korean film, but it's about a serial killer who he develops dementia and has to protect his daughter from another serial killer.
Yeah, because I think, okay, it's a number of factors, but I think one of it is because you talked about this movie so much that the title sounded so familiar, I conflated it.
Like I said, it is. I am not. I should have just That's my fault. I should have sent you the link to the movie I was wanting to discuss.
Right.
Because their names are so similar.
Okay.
So it's my fault. I apologize, everybody. But we can talk about Memories of Murder if you'd like. Since you watched it and you're like, what the fuck does this have to do?
I was like watching, and it's like, how does this pertain to memory? I mean, the only memory component of that movie is that, that one retarded character. And like he literally remembers, he was literally an eyewitness, and he remembers the murder that happened.
Yeah, but like he's unreliable because
Well, I mean, which kind of ties into last week's movie.
Oh no! Oh, I'm sorry, Andy. That's my fault. I should have clarified.
Yeah, it's always Robert's fault. It's never my fault. It's always Robert's fault.
Hey, I didn't push the blame off of anybody. I could have done a better job of.
Yeah, well, remember on the stream, it's never my fault. So ergo, it must always be your fault.
Yeah.
I mean, have you watched the movie enough to where you could like speak on it? Or?
I haven't seen it in a little while, but I think as we discuss it, my memory will come back. Like I'll actually gain some memory of the film, so I think we'll be okay.
Okay, we'll make it work, and maybe when I read the synopsis, it'll help like jog things.
Well, I do know it was about it's about a famous murder case in Korea. It was an actual murder case in Korea that was unsolved for quite some time, but it was through this movie and through that really brought it back to light.
Mm-hmm.
And I think actually recently they did find like more evidence, and I think that they were working towards maybe actually solving this case finally. So it's a great movie. Actually, I almost bought it on when I was buying my Blu-rays because they have a Criterion release of this movie that I wanted to get. We'll talk about Memories of Murder. It's and maybe we'll come back another time to do Memoir of a Murder, which was the initial movie review. You should have. I wish you had said something to me like, "You're like Robert. What the hell does this have to do with memory?" And that would have been like,
"Yeah, I know." And I think I gave you too much credit where you would have I was expecting you to explain, and I was like, "Oh," and I would have been like, "Oh, okay."
Well, that's the thing. It's like because you and we actually haven't seen each other in a couple of weeks, so we haven't hung out in person, and I think like had that happened, I think we would have probably at least watched
Yeah,
it.
yeah. So yeah, we're just we're off our cycles. So
Yeah,
we
I know
haven't
you've
been
been.
around each other, so our cycles desynced, and so
It's
you
okay.
know.
Hey, it happens. It's okay, and so we'll make it work. We'll talk about that, and I can maybe kind of parse that with like some of the stuff I've been watching this past week or so. But yeah, the news has been kind of wacky recently.
Yeah, lots of strange goings on.
It's the it's kind of the usual BS, but like it's kind of still because of what happened. It's still worthy to talk about,
Mhm,
and we'll give our own take on things, and like which is what we do.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, if you don't have anything particularly, I mean, if you want to forego the usual pleasantries and just get into it, or
Well,
I
I
mean,
was just
unless you have something like really notable that
no,
happened to you.
I mean nothing like super like oh man I had this happen to me this week, but I've had a lot of time this past week.
Mhm,
My wife has been she went to San Diego, so she was gone for a bit, for like about a day,
mhm,
and she's been pretty busy preparing for she has a exam she has to do for like
mhm.
for her career stuff.
Right.
So it's given me a lot of time to not only do our work on our reviews that are coming up. So I've been kind of getting some of my notes prepared, all that stuff.
Mhm.
So like none of the notes that I prepared for today are gonna work. So I'll shelve those for another night. Um, but no, uh, I got that done, and then I Creed 3 and John Wick 4 have come out in theaters, and I had never seen any of the Creed films, but I was like, you know what? I haven't watched Rocky. I haven't watched the Rocky movies in a while. Not since we did our Rocky 4 review, and I think we've only done two Rocky movies. We've only done the original and number 4.
Right. Correct. First one, and
Yeah.
then yeah. One.
And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna rewatch the entire Rocky franchise and then watch the Creed films. And I'm so glad I did. Uh, I I've actually kind of re-ranked, where I think the Rocky films are at. Obviously, the original is it's always my favorite. I think it's the most pure of heart, and I think I love it. But like I said, the Rocky 2 is great with the rematch, the real rematch with like Apollo Creed for the heavyweight title,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of like weight in that movie too, and um,
Yeah.
Rocky.
I don't think I've ever seen Rocky 2 all the way through.
Oh wow, okay. So I was thinking like we should revisit, do a Rocky month, and
Mhm.
do the ones we haven't done
Mm.
because there
Okay.
is four, so it works out.
Yeah.
I think that would be a good one to do. But yeah, Rocky 2 is really good. And it's especially because the in Creed 1 he is watching that fight between Creed and
Mhm.
Rocky where
Yeah.
they're
Apollo. Yeah. Apollo and Rocky.
yeah, so it's like it's in that those films, like the first three films with well technically four, are such a huge part of like the Creed franchise, like
Mhm.
because
Well, yeah.
yeah,
Because it ties so much. I mean, because Creed One, is kind of a rock is kind of a not one for one, but it's like it's Rocky One, and it's
well
he's
all the like the first five films, like although obviously they take place over the course of like 14 years, like as far as like the movies coming out
mm,
in the movie time, it's maybe over the course of maybe like 5 years, 5 or 6 years
right.
technically, and because it never actually gives like the like the year,
Hmm.
but it's always it gives like locations and stuff like that, but
Right.
it's
It's a rough like it's whatever whenever that movie came out, it's like roughly that equivalent year.
Yeah, it's but anyways, like, and what they do, which I think is a brilliant device, is that the first like little portion of the movie is the end of the previous one. So you're caught up. Like even if you haven't, oh, I haven't seen the first one in a while. Well, guess what? You're caught up. You're right into it. You know, Rocky 2 does that, 3, 4, 5.
Hmm.
Um but I would say like I liked Rocky 2. Rocky 3, I think, shot up in my rankings. Like I actually would put that
Yeah, I
second.
I really like Rocky 3.
Yeah,
I think, yeah, I just think like Mr. T as Clubber Lang is just such a compelling villain.
yeah. I I kind of like see like just based off the trailer of Creed 3, the guy that he fights kind of reminds me of a Clubber Lang.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean, and that's one of the criticisms against like the new Creed movies. It's like, it feels like a retread of the original Rocky
Well,
movies.
of course it is. Of
I know,
course
yeah, of course,
it is.
because
That's but
I mean, especially in the first two, because it's just, it's, because one because it also has Sylvester Stallone, but then also because it's, kind of tackling, it has similar beats, and then also, you have like, especially in the second one where it's like unfinished business with, Ivan
Drago.
Drago and his
You
son.
know that they were gonna have to do that. They
Of
were
course, well,
going.
of course, yeah, of course. Um,
Um, and
and
you know,
so, yeah,
there's a,
it's
there is a whole. Yeah, I was like after watching Creed 2, I was thinking like, oh, eh, the fact that like we don't really know what happened to Drago after that fight. Like, I mean, we find out about it in Creed 2, but it's like, yeah, he probably got thrown in a gulag for losing.
yeah.
If you think about it.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, yeah. It was like there was at the time where the Soviet Union was still in power, and yeah, and then the nation literally put its resources into Ivan Drago to
And he
be like
lost.
to be their Superman, and he failed. He failed against the American, and so yeah, for sure he went to off to a gulag for a while, and
And he
I
lost.
mean we see it in the movie where even his wife leaves him, um, and leaves him with the kid,
Yeah, that's really fucked up.
which is a really interesting twist.
Yeah, it really is. I kind of like that though. I
Yeah,
like
where
the
yeah, it's just it wasn't just like she took the kid with her as she left, but she's like, no, like that's your son. Or like maybe it's just like there's too much,
I don't want
there's
your loser kid.
yeah, right, exactly. So you're a loser, therefore you're even like your child is a loser, and like I don't even see him as my own kid.
So
Like that's a
like
deep cut, dude.
and for like 30 years,
Mm,
he's been training this kid to be like it's like it was his way of getting revenge,
mm.
like
Or
just
maybe I
something
wouldn't say revenge, but it was definitely he saw
redemption.
his son as a way of getting back into like the good graces of, if not the political elite, but even just like with his ex-wife.
Yeah,
And
I
that
think
does kind of start happening when Ivan initially defeats Creed, and and he's becoming a big star, and but ultimately that's fleeting because she didn't she it's shown that she never really cared about you know Ivan or their son, because
but I think
as soon as he as soon as Ivan Jr. is like on the ropes, like she's like she dips.
yeah, and I think that like but in some way I feel like they both got redemption. Like everyone got
Oh
redemption.
yeah, I mean regardless that he lost the fight, there was still redemption there, because kind of like reversal of positions, but like Ivan was able to save his son in the way that Rocky couldn't, and and that was throwing in the towel and admitting defeat.
Yeah.
Um,
So, but yeah, no. So Rocky 3 with Clubber Lang, it really shot up in like in my standing. So I would probably put that at number 2.
mhm.
Um, then it's like Rocky 4, but like there's enough like goofy stuff in like Rocky 4 where I'm like, uh, where I'm like, you know, it's good. I know why people love it so much because you know, like I said, that the fight with Drago is so like iconic, right?
Mm.
And you know, the death of Apollo Creed. But I don't know. There's just something about like Rocky 3 that just it got me. Like, and I think Mr. T is awesome in it, and uh, it's almost like you know with the Rocky franchise, it always feels like kind of like Godfather 3. It's like he's always trying to get out of fighting, and something's always like dragging him back into the ring.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. It's like he tried to retire so many times, or like at least at least 2 times initially, because in 2 he had to fight Apollo, and then after the third one, he was still fighting, but he wasn't fighting like at the same level that he once was. When they went to Apollo's gym, it's like, oh, see all those guys. It's like they all have the look that we used to have.
Yeah,
It's like, so yeah, and Mickey even called him out. Like, you're not fighting, at your peak. You're not fighting, monsters. You're fighting to stay where you are.
yeah, and so it's just like I think I just think it's really great because it's always like every time like he gets like complacent, it's like someone like it's a serious challenge. It's not just like for like pride. It's like there's a reason why he goes back into the ring. And you know later on in like Rocky 6, it's like he has that beast inside of him. It's like that's why he gets back in the ring. He still has that drive to fight, and it's like he hasn't gotten rid of it yet. So that's why like he doesn't just like retire. He's like, no, I have to do this. It's just it's still in me. That's who I there's nothing else for me. I'm a fighter. That's who I am.
Right.
And so yeah, so that's why Rocky 3 and 4 are great. Uh, revisiting Rocky 5, I would have to say I don't hate it as much as I remembered.
Mm.
It's not as it's now there are things about it's a flawed movie. It's the worst of the franchise for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But there are a lot of things in that movie where I'm like, you know what? This is actually not bad. And I get laughed. I was talking about this like this past week, and people are laughing. It's like, are you insane? That movie sucks. But I think it's actually not bad. First of all, the fight between him and Tommy Gunn is really good. The street brawl. Yes, that's actually the only one like where he's not in the ring. He's fighting in the streets.
Mm-hmm.
But it's I think it goes back like the key to the movie is like he wants to be around boxing, but he promised Adrian that he would because of the injuries he sustained against Ivan Drago. Adrian's like, no, you're done. And even like when they lose literally everything they have because Paulie was kind of stupid with their giving. He wasn't paying attention, and he gave power over to somebody that took advantage of them and pretty much stole everything.
Right.
So they had to start from the ground up, and he wanted to like, no, I want to get back in the ring. I want to, do a couple of fights so that we can go back to where we were at because I don't want us to go back to the old neighborhood and into living in squalor. Yeah, Adrian's like, no, we're not going to do that. You're going to kill yourself. And so he respects what Adrian wants, but his way back to the ring was this kid who looked up
as a trainer.
Yeah, who looked up to Rocky. It's like, okay. And it's like he saw himself in this kid without realizing that this kid didn't have the same reasons for fighting that Rocky did.
Right.
It was about like, he had nothing, but so he wanted to be in the big time. And then you have kind of like the Don King character in
the Don King analog. I always loved that guy.
Dude, I liked him. He's such a such a great villain. He's such a but yeah, George Washington Duke. It's like, and so you like that, and yeah, like I said, I actually ended up liking the movie, and Similar to like how his family kind of like lost everything, having people take advantage of him financially. You essentially had this fighter take advantage of Rocky too, where
Mm-hmm.
it's like was that was his way back to the ring, yet he almost loses his family because of it, because he pours all of his attention into that instead of paying attention to his family.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, there's a lot of like good moments in that film. It's like it's flawed. It's not great, but still like it. And then Rocky Six, I hadn't seen that since I watched it opening night in 2006. That movie's good. That movie is really
Oh,
good.
Rocky Balboa, yeah.
Yeah, I just call it Rocky Six.
Mm-hmm.
But man, that film is good. It really it kind of brought back like a lot of feelings from like the first one. It wasn't about winning the fight. It was about going the distance. And Paulie talks about, it's like I got this beast inside of me. I got to fight, and everyone's like, and there's a great like dialogue between him and his son, and is about like kind of putting it all out there to get rid of that like animal that's inside Rocky. And oh, man, it's such a good movie. I loved how they filmed the fights, like the actual boxing match.
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt like I was watching something on like HBO or something, like like on pay-per-view.
Right.
Like it looked like that. That I thought they did that so wonderfully. And I remember like when I watched, I was like, man, I really like this film. And uh, the friends I watched with, it's like, oh, it's whatever. It's like, no, you guys don't understand. Like, and I think it's because they hadn't watched all the other Rocky films. And so it's like, yeah, of course it doesn't make sense. And it's like, why is this like old dude like in the ring? Like, how do you think how could he stay toe to toe with this other guy? It's like, well, yeah, okay, I understand that part of it, but when you watch them all like in a row, to like back to back to back, man, you really get like what they were going for, and it's a really good film.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously like Creed 1 and 2, uh Creed 1 really uh captures that same magic of the original Rocky. If like it's about fighting for the right reasons, going the distance. And I think that's the I was thinking about like, okay, how is Adonis Creed different than Tommy Gunn? Because it's kind of the same idea, right?
Yeah.
But it goes back to the heart. Because Tommy Gunn wasn't fighting in like fucking Mexico just for like under like some
Right,
assumed
just
name.
for the experience, just to get his just to get his number up.
Yeah, he was just like, oh, I just want to make a quick. Essentially, it was about him making a quick buck.
Right.
And sure, he got like you could say that he got duped by George Washington Duke,
Mm-hmm.
but in reality, it's like that's what he always wanted.
Right.
Um, and yeah, he is a paper champion in a sense because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Adonis, he wanted like he didn't like he was trying to like get away from the Creed name. He didn't want that to be like the reason why he was fighting. Like he was going as like Donald Johnson or something like that. Like
Yeah. Yeah. His mother's name. Yeah.
his mother's name, and like he didn't have Adonis. He just called himself Donald or Donnie Johnson. And they called him like Hollywood. It's like,
Right.
but that's he was willing to uh, fight for the sake of fighting, because maybe he wanted to see what his dad experienced. He wanted to, because he
Well,
never
yeah. Well, it's
you
the
knew
first
never
Creed
knew.
one was yeah, it was reminiscent of the first one, but it was also um, Adonis trying to come into his own because because his dad cast such a long shadow, and and he didn't want anyone to think that he got to where he was based because of his name. And and I think there was a resentment of his dad. I mean, I think it's evident, when he does like the shadow boxing, and it's like, and he's like, he's fighting his dad.
He's fighting as Rocky. He's
Well,
pretending
I
he's
mean,
Rocky.
yes, but
Yes.
ultimately, he's fighting. You know, yes, he's in the position of Rocky, but he's himself. He's Adonis fighting Apollo. You know, because he feel in some way he feels abandoned. He feels that why weren't you there for me? And I think and he has like the resentment towards him, even though it can hardly be put on Apollo for him dying in Rocky IV.
Yeah.
Adonis, he still carries around that weight. Because I mean, I think they kind of dropped the the other siblings, but because I do believe Adonis did have other children by his wife.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, but maybe not. I don't like I now that I'm thinking about it, it's like, did he? Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, in the first one, it seemed like he did. Maybe I'm misremembering. But yeah, but either way, he does feel like a sense of abandonment because one his mother, I think his mother passed away, and then that's why he ended up like in the foster care system and
Yeah.
whatever. And then his father abandoned him. I mean, yeah, again, circumstances not with circumstances withstanding, he can again Apollo can hardly be blamed, but he still feels abandoned by his father, and he's angry. He's angry that he had to live that life of hardship. Even though he was collected later on by his stepmother, um, and it's a real tale of like trying to come out of with the father's shadow.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's like you said, these movies are fantastic. I encourage people to watch like all 6 Rocky films are up on Paramount Plus right now. The 2 Creed films are on HBO Max. If you have those two, you can watch the whole franchise all in like one sitting, or a couple viewings. Like I did, I watched over the past like 3 days, so I watched like 2 films.
Yeah, I mean, if you're ambitious, yeah, a dedicated day and watch them.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's what I've been doing. It's like man, it was fun. And they're really like God, they're really heartwarming films actually, because it's not necessarily about the boxing. It still is, but it's about like family and perseverance and there's a speech in that Rocky gives in 6 where it's like
Yeah.
life will
Yeah, it's not
bring
about getting
keep
knocked out.
keep you there, and if you let it.
Yeah, it's not how well you can take a hit, but no. It's how many times. It's not how many times you get hit, but how you can take a hit or something like that.
No, it's like you're gonna get hit hard. It's like how are you gonna like bounce back and like take how many like you have to get up and take the hits and
Right.
keep moving forward.
Yeah. Although, yeah, the only thing I would take out in 6 is the the love story.
But is that a love story? I don't think it is.
I mean, but I mean, I know it's.
He never.
It can hardly be. It can hardly be understood as. It could barely be understood as a love story. I get that, but I think.
Well, screw you, creepo.
Yeah, I think that element, could have been left out, and the movie still would have been okay.
I agree. I just
Although,
like
yeah, and then in the
story.
Creed movies, I wish they hadn't reset his relationship with his son.
Yeah, see, I thought that was kind of weird too. Like, I didn't like that.
Because after the second one, like he went back, like or at least in the first one, it was alluded to that like him and his son were on the outs. And I guess I understand because Adonis needed a father figure, like a father figure that would fully invest into him, and couldn't be distracted by a family of his own. So I kind of understand why they did that, but I wish they didn't do that.
Yeah, that would be like a little nitpick I had about that too. It's like didn't like that too much.
Yeah, I mean, again, I understand
I'm
why
glad they brought back
because
the same actor to play his son though.
yeah. And crazy how they found a kid that looks very much like Talia Shear.
Dude, they did. I was
Yeah,
like,
to play the grand. I mean, it's a boy, but it looks so much like Talia Shear.
do you think that like is that like maybe like her like grandson or something maybe?
Maybe. I mean, yeah. I mean, I know she's still alive, and it kind of sucks that they killed her off, but I understand.
Well, they
I
killed
understand.
Paulie up too. Burt Young's still alive.
Oh, is he? Is the actor
Yeah,
still
he's
alive?
82. He's not
Oh,
that much
wow.
older than Talia Shire. I thought that guy was like 100 years old because he
I
looks
know.
so
He
disheveled.
looks like he has lived a rough life.
He looks like he's on his last legs in the first Rocky film, like,
Mm-hmm.
but he ends up being in all first six of them,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like he could have been in the Creed films, and I kind of wish he was because I like it. It's like I love Paulie. Paulie's great.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, and then like he could have worked at the restaurant with Rock.
Yeah, like but I understand like it kind of gives it like another element, like because I think they wanted to have like Rocky like pretty much like he's alone, like he has nobody except for the restaurant.
Mm,
Like he gives of himself to all these people, but he doesn't really have anything for himself other than Adrian's.
right. Yeah. Yeah. Again, the nitpicky thing, but I still enjoyed the movie.
Fuck, they're all good.
Yeah.
Even five has its charm.
Um,
But that's been my week.
okay. Yeah. Nothing much to report for myself. Just another weekend. Outreach. Um, although this past Saturday, I wasn't able to interact as much because I had to do a lot of driving back and forth from the location where we set up and then back to church because we forgot something, and then also like one of the members had he had bubble guts, so I had to drive him. I had to drive him back to church before he messed himself.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's so
so
worse. Yeah,
yeah. So I wasn't able to interact as much as I used to, but I saw a few people that I recognized, and I was able to catch up a little bit. Um, but even initially, there was a lot of people that came to our table where we set up, and that's very encouraging. Because again, like the place that we go to, it's it's just so dark. There's just so much darkness there, and if we can even bring a little bit of light into that place, all the better.
it shines bright because
Yeah.
it's so dark there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
like I said, what you guys do is just it's great. Like I I applaud you. I pray for you guys. I think what you do is great. So
Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, I mean, you watched Rocky. I finished the John Wick series.
I'm doing that right now. Actually, before we started, I started watching the first one, rewatching the first one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So I watched the fourth one, and then and I did in preparation. I rewatched the 1 through 3.
yeah, I just like
Yeah,
because I wanted
man,
to.
it's so good. It was so good. Just rewatching all the movies and then going into 4. I'm mostly satisfied with how it ended. Um, and a lot of only a few gripes, but really minor gripes. One being is like the introduction of like these really interesting characters, but then this being the last one, but and potentially because there's a lot of rumors going around saying that it might pick up again.
Yeah, I
Um,
heard that too. I was like, well, I'm gonna reserve my comments on that until I actually watch the fourth one.
mhm.
Uh, But what I love about the John Wick films is that they are, we've watched a lot of American action films. We've reviewed a lot of American action films. We've reviewed a lot of Asian action films, and I think it's a good mixture of both. I mean, the action choreography is some of the best I've ever seen. Like, it's
Yeah.
really good.
Mm.
And it's like I said, it's believable. You feel like you feel the punches and the
Right, because it's not like it's not like you in a standing fight and like no one ever gets to the floor. No one ever gets like knocked down to the floor, and the fight never. It's always just like always standing up. But this one it gets up to the ground. There's a lot of like grappling and wrestling that goes along. A lot of jujitsu utilized. And of course the gun fu. Um,
Yeah, it has.
But
So
I know a lot. I know. Previously, gun fu was like very, it was a four-letter word. But
man,
not in the case of John Wick. They do it in a very, realistic way where it's not just like, all of the movements make sense.
I
With
feel
the
like
gun fu.
because when it comes to John Woo does a lot of like the gun fu stuff, and which I think works in like that arena because it's like it's not bad per se, but
Right.
for me it
Yeah, I
didn't
mean,
track
if you want to think about it, gun fu is just a style.
when he
It's an artistic choice.
when he brought it to like Western cinema. To me, it didn't work because I don't think the actors understood it,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't think a lot of the audience understood it. It just so it's kind of like it didn't quite like match up like what you would see over in like his films over in Hong Kong.
Right.
Um,
I think,
but like,
well, just really quickly, I think one of the best translations of gun fu is probably Equilibrium.
yep, I was just gonna bring that up because and I love that freaking movie. It's
Mm-hmm.
so good.
Right.
But yeah,
Because yeah, it took a completely, it created a completely different context, and they built a martial arts system around it, and so it wasn't just like, oh yeah, New York cop, and all of a sudden he's like flipping around and doing all this stuff with the gun, but it's like, oh, here's this universe, here's this society, here's this, you know, you know, quasi a paramilitary organization, and like they developed a system of fighting with guns.
yeah, and it's believable. It's I mean it's all bullshit, but like
Mm-hmm.
you buy into it. That's
Right.
and that's John Wick takes that to like another like level. That's
Mm-hmm.
and it's just brilliant. Like and Equilibrium in a lot of ways is that mixture of Western and Asian action films.
Mm-hmm.
So it like I said, I think I own Equilibrium on DVD. I believe I wonder if they have a Blu-ray release. I might rebuy it and get the Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm.
Just to see if there's like any extra stuff on there because that movie is it's fucking great. I really do like that movie a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, stylistically wise, I mean, yeah, it's not telling the most original of stories, but I really like the world that they created. Libria and like the society that it's basically Vulcans. Society,
Like
it's a society of Vulcans.
well, think it's every like great dystopian novel like it's 1984 Fahrenheit 451 Brave New World. It's all of those kind of like in like one movie. Although
Right.
you're not following a normal citizen like that is being like suppressed.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the eyes of like the head suppressor almost, or at least the right hand man of like the
Right.
suppressing
Well, it's
government.
like, yeah, it's a familiar story, but it's also it's a story of a man, you know, uh, going through trials to get to enlightenment.
Yeah,
In the case of Equilibrium, the enlightenment is emotional awareness.
yeah, but yeah, it's a good movie, and yeah, the John Wick movies are fun. I'm rewatching the first one as we speak. I'm looking forward to rewatching number 2 and 3, and then going into the theaters to watch number 4.
Right. I mean, I shared some nitpicks with you before, but I won't go into them right now because I know a lot of people haven't seen it yet. But even though I do have nitpicks, I still enjoyed the movie, and I would still recommend it uh, to anyone who asks.
Yeah, and if I'm assuming if you're a fan of John Wick, it's like you got to watch it, right?
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, and I
that's all.
mean, I'm mostly I'm mostly for I feel it's mostly satisfactorily concludes everything.
Okay, all right, sounds good.
All right, let's get into the topics of the day. Where would you like to start?
Why don't we go kind of revisit like what we were talking about last week with the potential Trump arrest? Why don't we start with that?
Right. Okay. So yes, this is what week 2 in the
Trump watch.
Trump Watch 2023. We're in week 2 of former President Trump's possible maybe fingers crossed arrest for paying hush money to a porn star.
Yeah, here's what I think was brilliant on his part is that he put out that it's like, oh, I'm about to be arrested, and that was a last Tuesday that he said this, or like he put it out a few days before that. He's like, well, it looks like I'm gonna be arrested Tuesday,
Mm-hmm.
and so, oh, what? Okay, so everyone is on, kind of watching that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you and I think both speculate. It's like, I don't think a goddamn thing is gonna happen because we hadn't heard anything, by the time we started like live streaming,
Mm-hmm.
and we're like, I don't think anything's gonna happen. And I think it was a brilliant move by him to like say that, like, hey, we're um, he's putting that on the lights, like, hey, I'm gonna be arrested. But that what that does is like now it puts it out there because I don't think that there was any sort of thing about it. Like, I mean, obviously, everyone's always like, "Oh, Trump's gonna go to jail," like Mueller's got him now. It's like, oh, the walls are closing in. How
Mm-hmm.
many? We've heard that for what 6 years almost with him.
Right.
So it's like, but then this like where he is saying this, like, oh, it looks like I'm gonna be arrested actually, like over this.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so that is newsworthy, right? But what that does is that puts it out there, and so everyone's like, wait a second, like, why is he what's going on? And then it's over something stupid. It's bullshit. It's like he's already been exonerated, or I think that's the term I'm looking for. Yeah, exonerated over this whole thing. It's not, it's a nothing burger.
Right.
Yeah.
Mostly settled, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the federal government isn't going after him, but then the state of New York wants to go after him, and it turns out that the district attorney or the attorney general looks
Oh no,
like,
what was it? Was it the district attorney of New York City?
yeah, the DA of New York City.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out he has a lot of shady shit in his closet, about this thing, and now he's being investigated. So it's like, oh, well, hello, so I like I said, Trump sometimes is kind of a smart guy, and I have a feeling that that's why he put that out there. And now it's like, oh, but of course, like, CNN wants their viewership, so of course they're gonna like, oh, it's any minute now he's gonna be arrested. Keep tuning in, and we'll break the news. So because once again, they can't get any sort of viewership
Yeah,
without Trump.
organic viewership.
Yeah, organic viewership without Trump. Nobody watches them. Um, and now this isn't like I said, this isn't some endorsement of Trump. Like we have our criticisms of him, as we've talked about. We don't. One of the big ones, and it's funny because I was telling you this before we started, but literally like a day or two after we talked about this, all these other conservative pundits, kept bringing up the points like, yeah, you know what he didn't do? Like, one thing I don't like about him, he didn't stand up for the January 6th people. It's like, yeah, like, welcome to the party, pal. It's like, it's just, it's funny. There some of these news topics that like where we bring something that like no one else is talking about, and then like days later, people are talking about it. It's like maybe they're watching us. I don't know. Or these people are smart too. Like eventually they come around.
Yeah, I can totally grant parallel thinking, but for sure they're coming onto our stream and stealing our ideas.
It's just
so
like,
obvious.
Just like James Gunn. I'm sure James Gunn watched us. It's like, James Booby, we have a whole thing. It's like I'm your white knight.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's gonna fix like the DC universe based off of our live stream of us talking about them. So
although it was interesting because I mean it's just one other, or it's just two podcasts that or channels that I follow, but one of the podcasts that I follow for news and politics is the Matt Blonde show, and like last year or so, like a year and a half, they started implementing a movie review at the end of their show.
It's a palate cleanser.
Yeah, kind of like a palate cleanser, and it was kind of like, because the co-host Blonde, she would make all of like these cultural references from like movies, and the other host Matt, like he had no idea because he wasn't a movie guy, and so the references went over his head, and so like this was supposed to be like a way for him to watch all the movies to kind of get the cultural references.
Wow.
But like we were doing it right off the bat. We inevitably integrated a movie review into our show, and then again another creator by I get it. Yeah, all these creators are bigger than us. But another creator, Doomcock, I caught a live stream of his, and he does like an end of the week kind of panel talking about pop culture and things like that. But then I guess I caught it towards the end of the stream, and then him and his guests, they did a movie review, and interestingly enough, they did a movie that we reviewed. And that was The Quiet Man with John Wayne and Maureen O'Hara.
Get out of here! Oh my God, we did that for Irish Month.
Yeah, that's right. Last March, right?
Was that last year or was that 2 years ago that we did that?
All I know it was from March because that movie takes place in Ireland.
Yeah, obviously. Oh man, that is fucking funny, dude. So I'm not saying that they don't watch us,
right? And that's just only two examples that I know of, But it is funny that, like, especially with the creator Doomcock, like, he's bigger than us, no doubt, no questioning that.
Hey,
but it's just so funny that he just, he does pop culture stuff, so it's understandable that he would come up with or he would have a movie review on his stream, but like it's funny that it's like he does a movie review at the end of his stream, and then also he does a movie that we already have reviewed.
Fuck, we should have done a patent pending on this shit.
I know.
Patent pending. Like, who are you?
Yeah, but it's the nature of YouTube to just rip off everybody.
Hey, it's like. It is what it is. Like, sometimes I get ideas for like movies that we should review. It's like, because I was listening to him. I was like, that actually sounds like a good movie. And then I watch it. It's like, oh yeah, we got to review this. This looks good.
But anyway, yeah. Getting back to the topic at hand. And so, yeah, we come out and say like, hey, because he said like, oh yeah, you have to get out in the street and you have to protest, and we're like, don't protest for this motherfucker. Do not protest for this motherfucker at all.
That is what these people want you to do, and like, and Trump is not going to have your back. Sorry, he's not. Like, and like I said, that doesn't mean that I don't like the guy. I think he was a mostly competent president, more so than anyone within our lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah,
think
that's including Ronald Reagan.
well, that was a little bit before our time when he was actual.
Well, I mean, when I was born, Reagan was president, so.
Yeah, but I think that he does. I actually do think the guy does care about the country and does want to make it a good country to live in.
Mm-hmm.
But in a lot, he's also a guy that gets in his own fucking way.
Mm-hmm.
It why okay, you make like three good moves, but then you're gonna do like this other move that's gonna move you like four steps back. Like, why are you doing that? Why are you like? You don't need to fight. Like, I'm glad that you're fighting. That's great. I want a president that's gonna, take the punches and punch back. But you don't need to fight every single fight.
Mm-hmm.
It's like yes, you need to go. You need to have that Clubber Lang fight, but you don't need to fight fucking Hulk Hogan. It's like that.
Right.
It's like that was unnecessary for your for yourself.
Right. I mean, yeah, I get it. Like you did it for the publicity or whatever, but
Yeah, it's like it's stuff like that, and that's one of his huge problems. It's like, yeah, you know what you didn't need to do, like, and create all this like bad press for yourself is this shit. Like I hate that. Like, was it the First Step Act or whatever he did with like Kanye and
yeah, the prison reform.
yeah, the prison reform bill that was stupid. Uh, and
Right, because yeah, all it did was help to release career criminals.
yeah, it's like these guys have been there. There's a reason why they're in prison that long. Now, don't get me wrong. Like there is. I think they have something called like the Innocence Project,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, there are some people that are in prison that should not be there. You guess you know who the Innocence Project needs to like help out the January 6th people, because like there's a lot of those people in there that don't belong in there.
Agreed.
Um, and they've done good things. Like, and what was it? There's even uh, did you ever watch the movie Hurricane?
No, but I'm aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a real story.
Yeah, based on a real story about Reuben Carter, who was wrongfully imprisoned for like.
Hell, there's even a song about the guy.
Yeah, by Bob Dylan. Yeah, the Hurricane. Yeah, he was like I guess people today would characterize his imprisonment or like his charges as driving while black.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, which isn't wrong. If you look at the case, that characterization is pretty accurate.
But yeah, I mean, so like stuff like that does happen, and as more evidence and comes to light, it's like, yeah, let's get these guys out of prison. I'm totally fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not opposed to like revisiting certain things where like what they're like something doesn't like sit right. But then there's like, but these people, it's like I don't think that people look at what their case was like, because I don't know if there's some sort of like I assume that there is like there has to be some sort of paperwork as far as like plea deals go, or like, okay, you were initially being charged with this, but because you instead decided to plead guilty,
right? Because you rolled on some of your crew, or you pointed a finger, then that we're gonna reduce your time.
Or instead of like wasting our time with a whole like trial, you decided to plead guilty.
Mm-hmm.
But that, like I said, so you got like this reduced sentence, but you're still like this guy that like did all these horrible things. And but then I was like, oh, he's just there because of like he had like an ounce of weed in his pocket. It's like, no, he's not. No one's doing 25 years to life for an ounce of weed in their pocket. Okay, It's just not. It's not.
or a couple of joints on them.
Yeah, that's not the case. Like, come on. Like,
Let's,
wake up, people. And I
let's use some
like,
of the critical thinking skills.
yeah. So yeah, so that was a terrible idea. Giving Fauci the essentially carte blanche to run the country for a year. Well, technically more because
2 years.
Yeah. So it's just it's stuff like that where it's like, man, the guy like fought for so much, but then like he fucking like lays down, he gets knocked out.
He what is it? Like it's like a steeple race, He clears the first the first 3 years are like his like great years. He's able to clear those hurdles easily, but the last one, the fourth one, is where he fucks up.
God, he was really bad in that fourth year. It was embarrassing.
Mm-hmm. And you'll have your apologists saying like, oh well, he had to play ball and blah blah blah.
No, he didn't.
And like also it's like, oh well, they tricked him. It's like so you're saying that that Donald Trump is incompetent? Like no, he's the smartest, greatest president we ever had. But it's like, but he got tricked.
You could make the argument that like all the progress he made in the first 3 years, he lost in the fourth.
Yeah.
Now
I don't think that's completely fair.
Now I don't think that he lost the election in a lot. Or yes, he did lose the election. Like obviously Biden's been president for the last 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
But there was shenanigans. Like it didn't feel like a very kosher election season.
No.
So I would agree that like there's a lot there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like does he deserve another crack at the job? Yeah, although at this point now I'm like, man, he's still with it.
He'll be at the time of the campaign season. He'll be the same age as Biden was in 2020.
He's definitely more with it than Biden is.
Right, but we are both of the same mind in that that we thought that Biden was too old at the time, and so if we're to be fair, then we have to apply that same logic to Donald Trump, and he's going to be the same age as Joe Biden at the start of the 2020 campaign. So
yeah, I'm kind of done voting for octogenarians.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I never really did to begin with, but like especially now, I'm like, just no. We need to have some fresh blood, if you will. Now that being like I said, if it ends up being Trump and Biden in the general, well, I ain't voting for Biden. Okay, it's just not gonna happen. If I'm not like that also depends on a few things too, because I hope that he steers super clear of all the vaccine stuff. If he if he does, he's gonna run again. He needs to stay clear from the vaccine stuff, because I know like he started like, no, I was the one that did all this, like, and then he's getting booed. It's like, yeah, because no one fucking likes this stuff, and especially now with all the medical tests that have been the surveys that have been not surveys, all the what's the word I'm looking for? Like all the studies. Sorry, that's what I was looking for. Studies that were done. It's like, yeah, it's actually like not good for young healthy people to have this, because it caused all these health conditions, and it's not just in a survey, but it's actually being proven. And it's like, now you're also seeing I've been seeing a bunch on like Twitter of like the people who are like getting like the shakes, like, oh, this is because of I took the Moderna vaccine. It's like, I don't believe those people either. I think that's all bullshit. But actual people that are like, oh man, like for some reason, like my heart kind of hurts, like, and it's like they're getting enlarged hearts, and like they're having to take other medicine to help like reduce that, and it's like, which is but these are people that are in their 30s and stuff, like 20s and 30s. It's
Yeah,
like,
mostly in their prime.
yeah, it's like, why do you have like this fucked up heart all of a sudden? And it's like they're not like, you know, 150 pounds overweight. Like they're within their weight range, their healthy weight range.
Yeah, they're not
And
morbidly obese. They're
yeah,
their cholesterol or whatever is probably nominal. But yet, like like the number of like cardiac events that are happening amongst young people, and the people having heart problems, and well, I said cardiac events. Um,
well, they
but
are
just
cardiac events. Like you're getting a large heart. Like that's a severe problem.
right, fair enough. Yeah, it's just. But he's never gonna step away from that. He wants it known far and wide that he was the one that got it out there. He's the one that pressured the FDA to push it to emergency use. He's the one that got it warp Project Warp Speed. He's the one that pushed it through the normal testing phases to get it out faster. Like he wants the credit.
This is the Hulk Hogan and not the Clubber Lang.
Right, but again, he will never step away from it for whatever reason, for like whether it's ego or maybe he's just really stupid in this one particular area. Like he will not let this go. I promise you. Like that. Okay, if he ever walks it back and says like, hey, I even though I'm really proud of the work that we did, I think the vaccine is does have some flaws and blah blah blah. Okay, then I'll eat my words.
Yeah,
But that's not going to happen. I know
gonna
it's not going to happen. Because he's not going to step away from it. He wants the credit. He wants for some reason he thinks that like the vaccine is his legacy, but all the other things he did in the previous years, that's his legacy.
That's his legacy. That's what you should be riding on.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like in a way, yeah, he is being stupid because he's being a jackass. And like even though he's like literally getting booed from his base, like and like early on there's like after like in 2021 where he had the rally in Alabama and he brought up the vaccine and people literally booed him.
Booed him.
And like and this is Alabama. This is Trump's
some country
core fan base. And they booed him, and he still didn't like pivot and be like and change his messaging up. He still put it out. He still puts it out there. Oh, I'm the father of the vaccines. I'm the one that pushed the FDA. I'm the one that got Project Warp Speed off up and running. I'm the one that saved 100 million lives, and that number can't even be substantiated. There's no way. Because there wasn't 100 million people who got the vaccine.
Yep. So yeah, just kind of crazy to think about. But yeah, like as far as like his arrest, that ain't ever gonna happen. And
it's not gonna happen. It's never gonna happen.
And because they know that if and I'm talking about like the left, that if they arrest this guy over this thing that has already been like settled, that they're gonna have, he will be a martyr and he's gonna be the next president, and they do not want that at all.
Yeah, it's funny because it does kind of line up with John Wick 4.
I love this theme that we have like going on.
Yeah. Only because in the sense that like the high table, they take their they kind of take their revenge on John Wick, but they don't do a frontal assault. They do a flanking maneuver, and they go after all of his allies.
Yep.
Yeah, and then one of them just so happens to be Winston, right? And
right.
And then Winston goes and has, this is only a bit of I'm gonna talk about the movie, and I promise you it's not really spoiling anything because I'm pretty sure that this scene is already like available on YouTube.
Yeah.
But he goes to visit the representative who's been put in in charge of the high table, and in this tense meeting, you think that he's going to be killed, but he doesn't, because the whole like the villain of this movie, the Marquis Gramont or whatever, like he's not gonna he doesn't kill, like in a one-to-one meeting, he doesn't kill Winston because that creates a martyr. And like what he wants to do is ruin. He wants to bring down John Wick by going or like around to his proxies. And like
Yeah.
if he had killed Winston, then it would cause maybe other crime families to like kind of prick up their ears and be like, oh, what's this? So you just killed like a beloved, someone
What
who's
about
beloved within our world, because like I think Winston I think he does
is he the
represent
owner of
like
the is Winston the owner of the Continental?
he's the manager of the. He's always referred to as the manager, not the owner.
Okay.
But because I think all the Continentals are run by more or less funded by the high table.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
and they install managers.
Winston being one of them.
Winston being one of them, and I think what he says in the third one to the adjudicators, like, oh, I've been a beacon of stability for our industry for over 30 years, and I think Winston does have that juju, or does have the juice to have loyalties within that world, and if he gets killed off, then I think people would rise up.
Ooh, yeah, that's you bring up a great point. Because this is that's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And
So similarly in this case with Donald Trump, if they if the left gets what they want and they get that shot of him doing the perp walk with the handcuffs, you know, on him, and maybe like his jacket pulled over his head, you get your photo, you get your victory, but it's gonna awaken the sleeping giant.
oh God, yeah. So, like I said, now what's gonna happen? We're gonna do this little dance. We're gonna play this game, and it's like, oh, any day, the walls are closing in. The media is gonna keep doing that because they want you to tune in, thinking that they're gonna like any moment they're gonna have like the arrested Trump, and now this is pretty much every news organization wants to keep that going. So they're gonna do this little dance, but guess what? It's never gonna happen, people. If they didn't arrest like Richard Nixon, they ain't arresting Trump. I'm sorry, it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah, if they didn't arrest Bill Clinton, they didn't arrest Richard Nixon, they didn't do any of that shit. So it ain't gonna happen. In fact, like there's gonna be unless like I actually like no matter what, I couldn't foresee any sort of scenario where a president like either former or current president would ever be arrested.
Yeah, I don't see it either.
It's just like Trump made the joke of like I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and like I'd get away with it. It's like yeah, he's probably right.
Not lose any fans or supporters.
Not lose any fans or supporters. I don't think he would go to jail.
Yeah.
I think that like any president could probably do that and would not go to jail. Which if they're doing something like that crazy, I would be a little concerned. But like I don't see any scenario where there's a president that's gonna like a former president that's gonna go to prison. It's just not gonna happen.
Yeah, no.
But
if anything, he could probably do the South Park excuse and be like, "It's coming right for us," and like saying like, "Oh, my life was in danger."
Yeah. Now lower tier politicians have gone to prison. Like was it Marion Barry from DC?
Oh yeah, the DC mayor addicted to crack.
And he got his job back too.
Yeah, dude. There's a statue of him in DC.
I know.
Oh Jesus!
Smoke crack got his job back, baby.
I know,
oh my God. What was the there was that was it the governor or like the mayor of Chicago. Like he was actually on the on Celebrity Apprentice too, and Trump ended up pardoning him. But he used to be like the governor of Illinois, I think. Not Bogdanovich, but like Blagojevich.
Blagojevich, yeah.
Yeah, he was pardoned by Trump, but he went to prison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lower level, you face consequences, but I mean,
Yeah, it's kind of like with like
a president of a country.
Yeah, it's kind of like with like celebrities. Like you have to be at like a super top tier level, like where you can kind of get away with some shit. You can't be like Jared Fogle, and then
Right.
like
Yeah, you'd have to be like a Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah,
to get away with some shit.
You have a Hollywood legacy and you're an A-list actor on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can't be like some be like Kathy Griffin. You can't be like a Kathy Griffin level.
Yeah, and then get away with like manslaughter or whatever.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah. Well, maybe even like if it was initially charged as murder, it would be dropped down to manslaughter. But that's the power you have as a celebrity. Even for a Z-lister, like Kathy Griffin, I think like if it was initially charged as a murder, she'd be able to get it down to manslaughter.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
She has enough body of work. Like, yeah, she can get it down to manslaughter.
Yeah.
She can hire that good of a lawyer.
Yeah, even with her Z-list status.
Yeah. God, she's insufferable. She's so annoying.
Yeah, but there is a part of me that has compassion for her.
She's been driven crazy. It's okay.
Driven crazy, yeah.
She used to be like kind of like fun and like, but now she's just like she's lost it, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what happens when you don't have a man or children.
Oh, that's. Though I am still convinced that her and what's his face, Andy Dick are the same person.
Oh my god, it makes so much sense. It's crazy. Oh man, that makes too much sense.
You throw on some glasses, they're the same fucking person.
I know. That just makes too much sense.
I love when I get a good chuckle out of you.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, that was good.
But like I said, I just wanted to follow up on that story, and like, Andy and I both believe like this is never gonna happen. I don't know if this is necessarily like a full-on ploy by Trump just to kind of like generate some more, I don't know, heat towards like him being voted into office, winning the Republican nomination and the presidency. That's a possibility, but what isn't like in doubt is that this is going to be, it's probably media driven. It's going to be they didn't come up with it, but they're going to exploit the shit out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that because they can't get, real views. They can't get like natural views.
No, of course
not. So they're gonna use the show pony that they can ride to glory for another however long they can. I mean, how long has this guy been out of the fucking presidency?
Yeah,
3 years?
3 years.
And they're still, they're frothing at the mouth talking about this.
I mean, there's not one story that they don't mention Trump's name. It could be about like,
and it's not even like they don't necessarily use the name Trump. It's like, those MAGA people. It's like
right. The proxy is MAGA,
which is Trump people. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, but then they're still indirectly talking about Trump.
And it's like
there's like So like seriously, this is a serious challenge for you guys. For those of you who still believe like the mainstream media is only putting the information that we really need to know. Watch any of the left leaning news outlets, CBS, NBC, ABC, MSNBC, CNN, and see how like count the time in between the times that they mention Trump.
Yeah.
That's how often they tie everything back to Trump. It's like, oh, oil spill. Oh, remember that time that Trump did such and such, or greenlit the Keystone XL pipeline. It's like, oh, like transgender bathrooms. Oh, remember that time that Trump I don't know, something transgenderism.
The death count is still at 0, but
Yeah.
we are expecting it to shoot right on up.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. It's like
I know. You're not wrong, dude. You're not wrong.
It's like, come on, man. Like, you're trying to create like action where there's no action. It's like, just stop it, get over it. There's other more important stuff to talk about.
Right. I mean, we're not talking about it, but like one of them being is, Saudi Arabia maybe selling their oil in Chinese yuan instead of the U.S. dollar.
Well, well, that's not the first country to like be doing that. Like there were other Russia was selling their like when they were selling their oil. It's like
their rubles.
Yeah, it's like they are only accepting their own currency.
Mm-hmm.
That's big fucking news. Because now, because the Biden has created like the dollar to, essentially be nearly worthless at this point.
Mm-hmm. Only good for lining hamster cages.
Yeah, the rest of the world sees that. Like, oh, well, I guess we can't use the dollar as it's not the main currency anymore. No one's
because like people think it's like, okay, if you think that it's gold back, it's not gold back because one, we're off the gold and silver standard.
That's been over 100 years.
Over 100 years, and Nixon put the nail in the coffin of that.
No,
we're not backed by oil because
we don't produce our own oil.
Yeah, because we don't produce our own oil. Our dollar is literally only backed by our military, by the threat of force. But look at all the crap that's going on right now with all like, oh yeah, I have 2 moms, but I'm a soldier, or white privilege. Oh yeah, good old boys from Arkansas. Yeah, come join the army, but you gotta hate yourself for being white.
Yeah, that's some actual news. Like that's, but no, we're not gonna talk about that. And speaking of kind of like in our transitioning into our next topic too, it's the same thing where it's something that like should be talked about, but like the way that it's talked about is not actual news. It's we have to create a narrative about something, for us to be actually able to talk about it, because we need to manipulate you. We need to make you think a certain thing instead of actually telling you like the actual truth about based off the facts that are at hand. No, we're gonna speculate and we're gonna create insanity over something that to deflect from what's actually happening.
Indeed. Yeah, and that it would be. Of course, we're talking about the the school shooting in Nashville by a person who identifies as transgender, specifically female to male transgender. And the real story should be that 6 people, 3 teachers, 3 students lost their lives. But the way that the media is spinning it is, of course, oh, we got to get rid of the scary gun. And also, they're deflecting by decrying the misgendering of this person. because it's a woman who identifies as a man, and so in the reporting it was in the reporting they used the female pronouns she her, and you had people on Twitter losing their goddamn minds talking about like, oh, like two crimes happened, the death of these people, but also the misgendering of this crazy trans person. And it's just like, priorities, people, priorities. All right, 6 people are dead, all right, at the hands of this fucking nut, and you want to still placate, you still want to do the stupid thing of placating the pronoun usage. You still want to, like, you think that this piece of shit that killed 6 people deserves any sort of respect?
Yeah,
Go fuck yourselves right in the ass with a railroad spike. All right, that's what I say to you.
Her pronoun should be shitbag.
Yeah. Although I do love DC Drano's post on it. He put the pronouns as was were.
Oh man, it's just that if that is because I see all the meltdowns on Twitter about like, oh, they've been misgendering this person. It's like, that is not the point at all.
Yeah, fuck that person.
I don't give a shit about. I hope, do whatever it takes to insult that person. That's what we need to be doing.
Listen, she killed babies, all right? So go fuck her.
Yeah, and but here's what's gonna happen, because she's in a protected class.
Yeah, she's one of the in the alphabet mafia.
Yeah, so it's because if she was an actual he, because I don't know, was she white? I don't.
Yeah, at least from pictures I've seen, yeah, she was white.
Yeah, she wasn't like she was a white person. Like, let's say she was actually a male. Well, then it's all about like, oh, this racist MAGA like white person like shot up like this incel neckbeard, who can't, like, it's like he just took out everybody. It's because he just can't get a girl to fuck him, or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
But because now this person is in a protected class, so we're gonna have to make it. It's like, no, this is why. Oh, how could this person buy a gun legally? It's like, well, guess what? I would imagine that like the last like few people, the FBI has been around their house like several times, and like people have seen like, this person's gonna do something bad. Can you look into this? And it's like, oh, nothing to see here. I guarantee that that's going to come out in a couple days.
Well, yeah, of course. They already scrubbed her social media, and from what I hear, at least from DC Drano, Rogan O'Hanley, his Instagram page, yeah, she had some pretty spicy takes. But also, it's really interesting how easily radicalized that these people are getting. I just before coming, I quickly looked at Twitter, and there's a video of a trans person, and and they had a AR, and they're showing it off, and like they're like basically like, arm yourselves, brothers and sisters. It's time for us to like defend ourselves.
Yeah, it's like, and
it's like very much it's like it's us or them. It's like it's actually they them.
And here's the thing. It's like I feel bad. I really do. Like, I do feel bad for these people. Not because I'm not saying that in a very like glib sort of way, but you have a lot of people who are they are struggling mentally. Like something is going wrong, right? And not because like I want to hate on them. It's like, these people do need help. They need to be able to talk to somebody and like figure out like what's going on, like with like, and that could whether it be like some sort of psychiatrist, or like a pastor, or like even if it's just a trusted friend that's like that is going to, or someone that's going to be like objective but like also caring at the same time. Like, I'm not I don't want to be like, we need to kill all these transgender people. Like, no, I don't believe that, contrary to popular opinion. Um, but like, but the problem is that they are not getting that help, whether it be like because the therapists at hand are enablers, and it's like, oh yeah, you should do this, and you're also getting the media, and now the society, a lot of society has turned around, and it's like, we need, no, you be who you are, it's okay, do what you want to do, you know be like fuck, what was was that Simpsons episode? It's like where, what was the name that Bart gave um that therapist weirdo? Um anyways, like it's like,
Rudiger.
yeah, Rudiger, thank you. Yeah. Be like little Rudiger here. It's like where it's just do whatever the hell you want. Well, that's a problem. And it's like and this isn't going just for like people who struggle with this thing, but there's a lot of people who struggle with like certain issues, and instead of like actually dealing with the problems, it's like, oh, just be who you are, it's okay, yeah, no, there's no problem, just do you, buddy. And it's like, no, don't just do you, because what you're doing is not working. It's like it's actually very harmful, not only to the people around you, but to yourself.
Right.
And
I mean, yeah, it's like you're denying reality.
so I don't know, like I don't know the history of this person. I don't care about their name. I'm not gonna, even if I knew their name, I'm not gonna say it on here. Um, but I don't know if there was like some connection that this person had to this school. It's like, and it
Well,
maybe,
yeah. Apparently, she used to attend there when she was a kid.
okay. So here's my thinking of what happened because of what you're saying with this like radicalization. Is like we need to arm ourselves. They theirs. It's like, and whatever crazy stuff that these people are like putting out online. But it's like, okay, well, well, the people at this school that they were mean to me because they didn't accept my preferred pronouns or whatever. And maybe they were mean to this person. I don't know, but that doesn't give you. Maybe they were awful. Like in the worst case scenario, maybe they were like real shitty to this person, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't give you the fucking excuse to go and shoot up the school.
Mm. Yeah, and yeah, this is specifically it was a Christian school.
Yeah, that's, there we go. That's the reason. So, and this is, yeah, kind of going back to the Rocky thing. It's like in Rocky Balboa, like when he's talking to his son, it's like, cowards do shit like this, like where they point the fingers and they blame other people for their problems. And it's like, no, you have to step up and like you have to take the punches and you keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't look for like the shadow to fucking blame.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, look at yourself and take a little bit of insight and
Yeah,
maybe like
take accountability.
take accountability for yourself and like and keep moving forward. Fuck
Mm-hmm.
those people. Like it. Do you know how much like I am a nerd's nerd. You know how much I was bullied in school? You have no fucking idea. Like especially elementary school.
Yeah.
But you know what I didn't do? I didn't go back to my elementary school and like take vengeance upon like um the people that were like, well, I developed a sense of humor. Like I developed like what I had. I developed my brain. I developed a sense of humor. I got tough. And then it's like, and yeah, I took some beatings, but you know what? That's okay. I became, and I am proud of the person I became. But I didn't shoot up a school because people were mean to me.
Yeah, I mean, same. I've been teased, I've been ostracized.
You like, yeah, I
But,
imagine kind
because
of,
of my hands. But yeah, again, same as you. I developed a personality. I was able to make fun of myself. I was able to laugh along with the with the people, and that showed my I guess, tormentors that that I was cool and that I was able to I was able to hang. And kind of like the Naruto plan. The Naruto tactic is turn your enemies into your friends.
Bingo. I did the same thing a lot of times. You don't give up, you don't back down, you take your punches, and then you you move forward. And we're coming to a point. No, we're not coming to. We're at a point now where that is what they consider. Well, that's toxic. It's like how. It's like that's how you deal with things a lot of times. Like you don't run and I don't have to have a band-aid for every fucking little thing that pisses me off.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I don't need to run to mommy every time I have an owie. It's like, come on. Just sack up a little bit. Like it's really like I said, there are, I say that not to be like callous, because people do go what problems for me to other people are like, why is that a problem for you? That doesn't make any sense. And so sometimes it's that it is hard for people to relate with your issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
And same thing, there are things that you go through that I'm like, that's not a problem for me. Like, why would that be a struggle for you? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, for me now, it's like amongst my friends, it's like complete opposite thing. Like people forget that I have problems, and
Yeah.
so when I ask for help, they're like, "Why?" And I'm just like, and they're like, "Oh
Well,
yeah, right."
well, I like one example that I think of this, because yeah, it's actually very easy to forget that you have a handicap, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you do so many things, and I
I know.
remember
I'm just so high functioning.
and I remember I handed you a beer once. I'm like, and I was like, and I was thinking, I was like, and then you were kind of trying to do it with your teeth. Like, oh shit, dude, I forgot. I was like, let me open that for you. Fuck, it's just don't open it with your fucking teeth, dude. It's like because like I said,
I do that.
because I've been around you so much, where I'm like, I don't even think about it anymore. Like your hands are it's like, for me, you're just a normal guy. I don't think about your
Yeah, it
handicap.
happens all the time. Like when we're, when I'm with my friends and we're trying to figure out like who's driving or who's whatever. Like we do rock paper scissors, and then everyone forgets.
I can't really wait. Andy, are you doing rock? Or are you doing
But again, then yeah, and then in that case, again, I come up with, we come up with workarounds, and like instead of throwing the sign, we just shout out, what we call out. So it's like, rock, paper, scissors,
right? But yeah, it's just but yeah, it's like I said, everyone has problems. Like it's just that is the way of life. Everyone has anxiety, everyone has struggles and stress. And I'm not saying that some people have it to greater degrees than others, and I'm not just if you're seeking help for that, to help, if you need to talk to a therapist, or um just someone with as an outside observer, that maybe you don't, your friends or your family, they just don't quite get it.
Mhm.
Having an outside observer, like a therapist or a psychiatrist, that's not, I have no problem with that. I think that's a good thing to do.
Mhm.
If if you're dealing with that stuff to the point where your life is being hindered, where it's not something I just have to grind through it, because everyone, like I said, everyone has problems. Sometimes you just have to grind through it, but sometimes grinding through it is not the answer. It's just, you need, and you need to go to an outside source to find tools to deal with that solution.
Mhm.
If I if I had something I was trying to build and I don't have the right tools, well, you know I could use a hammer, but like what I need is a screwdriver. Like, so I don't have a screwdriver. So what am I going to do? You know, that hammer ain't gonna, I can hammer away all day long, but that hammer ain't going to help me.
Yeah.
So you got to get the screwdriver. And that's sometimes like what therapy does for people. And I encourage people, if that's what's going on, go to those people. There's some good ones out there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's like everyone's got problems, man. And what I hate is that the media will take this because they're protected. This person's in a protected class, so instead of just like actually dealing with the issues at hand, like that this person struggled with, like whatever this school was, something happened, but that doesn't excuse them from their what they did. What they did was evil and wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but and clearly you know, normal people don't just go one day where like they buy a gun and because like the FBI didn't do their job or they didn't you know where like the supposed like red flag laws are out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like they're, oh well, this person seems fine, and it's like that that slow burner. It's like they know that like the pot's gonna boil over. They just don't know when, but they're allowing that to happen. And so there's no flags in their background check because the FBI is like, they didn't report anything. So yeah, of course they're legally able to buy a gun, which is their right as an American to do. And but this person is unhinged. And so instead of like dealing with their problems in a real way, they decide to take out their anger and anxiety and whatever else on innocent people that had nothing to do with their problem. Maybe there was one person in there that they shot that caused an issue with them, but we don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
But that still doesn't excuse it. You don't. That is not a valid response to what happened here.
No.
Like, if you want to tell those people to go fuck themselves, I'm all for it. Like, yeah, if like they were mean to you and they were cruel,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, double burn them. Go for it all day long. I'd support that. Um, but like shooting people, unless like they are actively trying to shoot you, or honestly, like if like they, you know, if like something happened to my wife or like my kid, you're guaranteeing someone's gonna get a bullet somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I'm probably gonna go to prison, but you know what? To me, that'd be worth it. But that's not what happened here, obviously. And they're gonna say like, oh well, we need more gun control. We need, it's the video games. They're too violent. The this and the that. It's like, no, it's not those things. There's a there you're because they want to create this narrative. They want to the they that I'm talking about is like the news media, which is connected to our government and the political elite. They don't want you to have. They don't want the regular American to have their civil rights. They want to eliminate that stuff. They want to create a country where the states don't mean anything. So it's just like this. Yeah, it's gonna end up becoming like this one nation, but like there's no distinction. There's no difference. It's all the same. Uh, you know, monotonous sludge where you don't actually have any rights because they're all kind of taken away.
Mm.
That's what's trying to this is just another notch on the belt for that, like trying to make that happen.
Well, yeah, because
All year.
if we're too busy fighting amongst each other, then we can't, come together and fight our real enemies.
But I'm just I encourage people not to be a shit stir, but I'm just I want people who are very active in like thinking this way, right? Oh crap, we need this, we need gun control. I want you to look at the narratives of like the some of the famous cases within the last like 3 or 4 years. Well, I'll go back. Hell, if you want to go back like 6 or 7 years, you can do that too. But I guarantee if the well, especially during like since like 2015, right? Shooters that are of some sort of like minority, you'll notice that uh, the narrative shifts to it's got to be gun control or about
Yeah,
something
of
about like
course.
something about like video games or movies or music that are causing like this craziness, right?
Yeah.
And if the
Although
person
they haven't really gone towards that in a while. They've been mostly it's been mostly political ideology. So they've been that's why they. I don't know when's the last time you
that's
heard.
a recent shift, I would admit.
Yeah, I don't know when's the last time you heard like someone blame like music or video games, but now it's just more like political ideology. So like they immediately go to these MAGA people, these MAGA
But
Republicans.
like I said,
They're the ones that are that are making our streets too dangerous to live or whatever. But it's like then news comes out like well this person was a leftist or this person was a vegetarian or this person
they
was a
shut
member
that
of
shit down.
PETA or whatever. Then it just immediately shuts it down. It
But
really derails the narrative.
that's what I want people to see because once they will try to like shape a narrative, and once
Mhm.
that person ends up not fitting that narrative, they either shut that stuff down or they shift to something different.
Mhm. Right, and particularly in this case, yeah, they've already shifted to more gun control.
That's the big one
Hmm.
because like I said, that person doesn't fit the narrative, so they're gonna shift it to something else. Well, the news story is hot off the presses.
Hmm.
Instead of like actually maybe like sharing the actual news like like what the story is, and if you're gonna have an opinion, it's like, man, maybe we should like try to like help people who are going through this, like maybe we can catch them before this stuff happens, and let's find them a therapist, let's help these people
Hmm.
before they like attack, because something clearly went wrong with this person, right?
Hmm.
Maybe they're evil to begin with, but I don't think that that's always the case. People snap all the time, like it happens.
Hmm.
Is it like falling down? That's a great example. That could happen to where you're pushed
Right,
like
yeah, just like
person
one bad day, just one
yeah,
bad
the
day.
person's like really unstable already, and then you have like another bad day on top of that, and they just snap. Like it's just people can only take so much, right?
Hmm.
Some people don't have a super strong constitution, and so sometimes they need like help. But clearly that person isn't getting help. And I would also probably guarantee that the person's on some sort of Ritalin or some other like, drug that is they've been on for like 15 years or most of their life, and they I don't know. Did they end up killing this person, or are they alive?
Yeah, they put her down.
Okay, but I bet you had she lived and we saw the picture of this person, you'd have that blank, just
Yeah,
thousand.
actually, well, like the initial photograph that they did put out, yeah, there's like, yeah, she had dead eyes, nothing behind them.
Yeah, I guarantee she's been on some sort of crazy ass medication her entire life.
Hmm. Oh, easily.
Yeah, that honestly, that is something that needs to be looked into. Like,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, because if you think about it, back in the day, guns were everywhere. Schools had schools had their own shooting teams, right?
yeah.
And there's like their guns were ubiquitous. They sold them in the local hardware store.
Going
You know,
back to like what, even like 70 years ago.
yeah, or like even towards like the early 1970s. That was the thing.
Even back, oh wow, even like that recent. Okay.
Yeah, and but then but there was like this ubiquity of guns, but there were no school shootings. So what was the difference?
Yeah, so something changed, obviously, but like now I don't know, like I couldn't tell you if there was something before college, because obviously like the one that like people would think of is like, oh well, Columbine, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was during our lifetime. Like we all remember that.
Mm-hmm.
At least like of our generation, we would remember that.
Right.
But
Yeah, I mean,
like
even,
what
yeah, just like
before that?
50, 60 years ago, the only prominent school shooting was at, what is it, the Texas A&M or whatever? The clock
Was
tower
that
shooter?
that Watchtower
Yeah,
shooting?
yeah, the clock tower guy.
Okay, yeah,
And
okay.
yeah, but like outside of that one,
But
can
he wasn't like
anyone?
a student. Was he a student there or what?
I think so.
Okay.
But yeah, that's like the only prominent one people could look back to like towards like that time.
And I guarantee like the Columbine students were thinking about that at all.
No, not at all.
And I bet and here's the thing is because there was some sort of semblance of objectivity when it came to the like I mean at least they tried to be objective in the news. They probably just said like yeah a crazy person shot up people at Texas A&M today.
Oh, and also the reason why they were able to put down the guy so quickly is because all the professors had guns in their cars. So they
Yeah,
went
that's
out.
the
So
whole
like,
thing.
so when it happened, all the professors went out to their cars, grabbed their
They're probably all
rifles,
war vets.
and yeah, they put down lead on that guy, completely covering that guy, so he couldn't shoot anymore until like the police could go and breach.
Yeah, because they were probably like World War II or Korean war vets.
Yeah, exactly. But also, yeah, again, like there was a culture, there was a gun culture. I mean, it was in Texas, so yeah,
Sure,
everyone has
but like
guns and blah 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 blah
the
blah.
idea, it's like yeah,
But just think about think about professors like today, and imagine if like they all had guns in their cars.
that shit would be like nearly over before it started. You wouldn't have that like Uvalde bullshit. Like
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Like the response time of the Nashville police. They're in, boom, drop this bitch. Within like 30 minutes or something.
yeah, I mean that's because it was only like what 6 or 7 people ended up dying,
Yeah.
including the shooter.
Mm-hmm. Oh, not
So,
including the shooter. Not including the
not
shooter.
including the shooter.
Yeah, I think it was like
So
3 teachers and 3 students.
still tragic. Like
Still tragic, yes, still
still
tragic.
extremely
But it
tragic.
wasn't like an hour and a half.
But you didn't have him like you didn't have her just shooting people for an hour like while this police stood outside doing fucking fuck all
Mm-hmm.
like in Uvalde. That was
Yeah.
God, that's so
Yeah,
shameful.
with like upwards to like 400 law enforcement.
And it turns out the door was not even locked in Uvalde.
No.
It wasn't locked. They could have breached that shit and ended it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that the more that comes out about that Uvalde stuff, like it just infuriates me more and more. God.
Yeah, and it's like, oh yeah, like, and one of the things was like, oh, they're waiting for a ballistic shield that was rated for whatever the ammo they were
Who
using.
gives a shit?
They
Fuck.
had it. They had it there within like 15 minutes, and then
Yeah.
they waited for like another 75 minutes to go and breach. Ah, so pissed off.
The door was not even locked.
There wasn't a lot.
And then,
Yeah,
okay, if you're so worried about bullets, like the windows were like there was no like obscuring of the windows.
mm-hmm.
They could see into the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Yeah,
Indeed.
but it's like this is a much better response time. It's still tragic. It's horrible that it happened. And I pray for the victims' families. People are gonna be like pissed off that I said stuff like that. Like, fuck your prayers. Ugh.
Like, what did your prayers do? It's doing more than you're doing.
Yeah. But like I said, it's a much better result. It's horrible that it happened, but I think honestly, a lot of this shit can be prevented. I mean, the signs are there. The authorities, I assure you, have talked to this person or their family, and instead of like, hey, you know what? Yeah, like, hey, you know what? Like, this seems like a lot like the this past story that happened with this other person that did this, that ended up shooting up the school. Well, should we do something about it? Nah. And they walk out. It's like nothing to see here, folks. Everything's fine. Not a problem. And in reality, it is a problem. These guys are, this, this is actually the first like woman that I can think of that I've heard of doing this. But yeah. It is usually like men that do stuff like this. But hey, could have another barrier broken for women, I guess. uh, yeah, just it's just kind of when I hear these things, I'm like, oh, here we go, another one. It's just to me, it just feels like this, like gentle erosion on our civil rights, because that's what the media is going to attack. That's what the government's going to go after.
Yeah, smash those glass ceilings, ladies. Smash those glass ceilings.
I mean, can you like? I'm trying to think of like a serial shooter.
Yeah,
That's been a
can't name
woman.
it serial shoot. I mean, it wasn't serial, but Patsy Cline.
True.
Yeah. But in terms of, yeah, it's funny because you think that shooting would be more of a woman's way of getting revenge, but it's not.
They're more poisoners.
Yeah, yeah, they're more. Yeah, they're a little more subtle about it, or they'll put like urine or feces in your food.
Or your bed.
What's her face? Amber Heard. There you go.
Oh God, dude, she shit in their bed. Like
Right, and
that's
then try to blame like their fucking shit.
dog.
Yeah, like a toy, like a small toy dog too. It's like,
Okay, sorry. Fufu does not have poops that size. All right.
yeah, like human sized shits. And she tried to blame it on like their fucking toy like poodle or whatever, or chow chow.
There was a bit by Tracy Morgan, like where he was talking about like he was like, I kind of had to like change my life around because like I was so like encapsulated by like debauchery, and it's like where it's like I would get to the point like where I would go into the house and it's like it's like it was almost like a demon on my shoulder. So it's like what it's like it's like, oh, I had to take a shit. It's like, do it in the kitty box, like in the litter box. Like, and I did it. And it's like no one's gonna think that that's the cat, but like it's like, oh, it was the cat that did it. It's like, no, you didn't. No, the cat did. It's you fucking degenerate weirdo. It's like, ever heard of like your dog did not shit on the bed. That's your shit. That's honestly that takes like a level like of insanity. Like no one is purposely shitting in a bed without some sort of like that's hatred.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I don't
absolutely.
I don't
No
know if
doubt about it.
I don't know if I could do that to like my like worst enemy.
Yeah, but then again, you're a good person, Robert.
I mean, the flaming turd on the porch, like that's a different but that's dog poop.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would put my own shit in a bag and light it on fire in front of someone's porch.
I know this is gonna sound bad, but I might.
So, with all these Ring cameras around, I don't know if I can do that.
Well, I mean, it's not like I'm gonna do it right then and there.
No. What I'm
I
saying
have
is,
it prepared.
well, I know that, but I'm just saying, like, yeah, running up to the
Oh well,
board.
yeah. Well, that's the beauty of nowadays. You just slap on a mask and just drop it off.
Now you're just being safe.
I love it. I love it.
But yeah, that's all I have to say about this. Like, piece of shit. That's how I identify them. And honestly, I hope that they are burning in hell. And
Yeah, right next to Hitler getting his pineapple up his ass.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay. Okay. That ends our topics for discussion. I guess we'll go into our movie review, which is the wrong movie, but we'll muddle through.
Well, I mean, you could talk about the movie that you watched, and I could talk about the movie I watched. One of them will be appropriate to the theme.
Yeah. I don't know.
Like I said, I understand the mistake because they are so close in name.
Yeah, in title, yeah.
Like Memories of Murder, Memoir of a Murderer. It's like it's so close.
It's so close. Yeah, it's too close. But I mean, if you're willing to muddle through and maybe
let's muddle through this. Like, I mean, like we should talk about the same fucking film, I imagine. So
right, okay. So you've seen Memory of a Murderer.
I've seen both, so yeah. I it's been a while, but I can talk about it. So what I'll do is, why don't you get into your
Yeah, I'll give the synopsis and then you just. All right, synopsis for Memories of Murder from 2003, of course, directed by joon-ho, starring what is it?
Kang-ho.
Yeah, Kang-ho. Yeah, Kang-ho-san. Here's the synopsis. 1986, Gyeonggi Province, the body of a young woman is found brutally raped and murdered. 2 months later, a series of rapes and murders commences under similar circumstances. And in a country that had never known such crimes, dark whispers about a serial murderer grow louder. A special task force is set up in the area with 2 local detectives, Park Do-man and Jo Young-gu, joined by a detective from Seoul who requested to be assigned to the case.
Now, had you seen this movie before?
I have not.
So this is your first viewing of Memories of Murder.
Yes.
Now, had you heard about this case in Korea at all?
Only from you, because you talked about the movie previously.
Okay. Yeah. So this is based off of a real crime that happened in the 80s in Korea. Mm-hmm. It went unsolved. I think I don't know if they just solved it, but I know like they because of this movie.
Mm-hmm. Right. Interest was brought back up.
Interest was brought about, and I think they found new evidence, and I think they were able to. I don't know if they found a potential suspect in it or potential suspects, but like it's. I don't know if, like I said, they did find some sort of. They are closing in on maybe solving this case. Mm-hmm. So it is. Yeah, because it was like. Because the killings happened between 86 and 91. At the time of the film's release, the actual murderer had not yet been caught. As the case was growing close to reaching the statute of limitations, South Korea's leading Uri party sought to amend the law to give the prosecutors more time to find the murderer. However, in 2006, the statute of limitations was reached for the last known victim. More than 13 years later, in September of 2019, police announced that a man. So I don't think he got arrested, but police announced that a man in his 50s had been identified as a suspect in the killings. He was identified after DNA from the underwear of one victim was matched with his, and subsequent DNA testing linked him to 4 of the other unsolved serial murders. At the time he was identified, he was already serving. He was a criminal. He was already serving a life sentence in Busan for the rape and murder of his sister-in-law. Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Lee initially, so the guy's name was Lee Chun-jae, and Lee initially denied any involvement in the murders, but in October of 2019, police announced he had confessed to killing 14 people, including all 10 serial murders. 2 of the additional 4 murders happened in Suwon, and the other 2 happened in Cheongju. As of October 2019, details about the victims have not been released because the investigation is ongoing. In addition to the murders, Lee also confessed to more than 30 rapes and attempted rapes. After Lee's arrest, Bong Joon-ho commented, "When I made the film, I was very curious and also thought a lot about this murderer. I wonder what he looked like." He later added, "I was able to see a photo of his face, and I think I need more time to really explain my emotions from that. But right now, I'd just like to applaud the police force for their endless effort to find the culprit." Lee had watched the film while incarcerated, saying that, "I just watched it as a movie. I had no feeling or emotions towards the movie." So that's what we're dealing with this film. Like, and it's just like, I think that this goes to the idea that I think, like, movies do have an impact, right?
Mm-hmm.
This was an important, like, case that happened in Korea that, when this movie came out, like, victims, or at least, family members or friends of the victims were still alive, and of course, like, they probably are still, like, wondering what happened to their
Their loved
family
ones.
members. Yeah, and this, it had to be, if they watched this movie, I imagine it was a very tough experience because they're like, what's gonna happen? We never found the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the reason that I have a feeling that the reason, I don't know when this guy went to prison, but I have a feeling the murder stopped because the guy did end up going to prison. He went
Right.
he
For something else, but not necessarily for the murders that he committed
Yeah,
previously.
and that's so it's kind of like, oh, maybe that's why the murder stopped, because I mean, when you kill 10 people, like, killing another 10 or 20 or whatever, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
You're a, you're a fucked up guy.
Right.
Um, but yeah, what did you like, not necessarily just talking about the case, but like, what did you think about the movie? Like, what how because now, obviously, now you have watched this more recently than I have. Like, so
Right.
what were your thoughts and thinking about this film?
I mean, we said it before in the beginning, but it's like, how does this relate to memory? But there's I think that it could still apply because, one of the suspects, that they lean on really heavily, he does recollect the murder and the rape, not because he committed it, but because he's a witness to it. But but he's mentally retarded, so he's not the most reliable of witnesses.
Yeah, you
Uh,
can't put him in front of a court and like expect him to like actually be able to give good detail, or like, no one's gonna believe him. Like,
right.
they're gonna rip that apart.
Hmm. But
Um,
then also it can relate to memory in that at the last, I mean, again, this is really thin, but the last scene is the detective, like, he's moved on, he's no longer a detective. He marries like his girlfriend at the time. They have a family. And I think they still live within the area that he once was a policeman, and so he goes back to the site where he finds the first body, or one of the first bodies, um, and in a weird way he's reminiscing. So like, So that that does tie into the theme of memory.
Yeah.
Whether, in a very granted in a very thin way.
Now, do I remember in maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but they do have an idea of a suspect in the film itself, right? Like they do have a guy that they're looking at as a potential suspect.
Eventually, yes. He's a factory worker, and he kind of fits the description of an earlier victim who never comes forward and who was only raped, but she wasn't murdered. So she does give uh, some details about the suspect that they didn't have previously. One of them being, he had soft hands.
Yeah.
Because he was in the midst of raping her when someone was a car was passing by, and he put his hand over her mouth, and she never looked at his face, and she said she didn't dare to look at his face. But when he put when the attacker put his hand over her mouth, she just distinctly remembered it being very soft, not like the hands of
Not
someone
rough.
who had a blue collar kind of job.
Yeah, the what was
I guess that too accounts to memory.
Yeah, so I like it loosely is based off. I mean, it's in the title, Memories of Murder.
Yeah.
But a couple of things that I think about, going back to our idea of cinematic archaeology, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that David Fincher or the writers of Zodiac probably watched this film because you're talking about a real. I mean, it's a real case, obviously,
right?
But it's an unsolved case. The Zodiac murders were never solved, though. I mean, they had some suspects in mind, but they never caught the guy. And when this movie was made, obviously it was still a case that was unsolved. No thought of it ever being solved. So there's some elements of Zodiac there because it does span over the course of years for the investigation. The other thing I was thinking about is, did you ever watch any of the True Detective on HBO?
No, I haven't. I've been meaning to get into it.
We have got to cover at least one of the seasons. Definitely, I would say the first season of True Detective.
Right, that's the one with Woody Harrelson and
Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
Dude, yes, we have got to talk about that. That's kind of has the same feeling because now now that we know that the case is essentially solved, we found the guy. Although he was in prison, but it spans from this case spans from 80, 85, 86 to 2019. That's kind of what True Detective deals with because you're dealing with the case in the past, and then they have this where it's 20 years later and they're still dealing with that case, and it's obviously all the detectives have aged and the people involved have aged, so it's kind of it's similar to what True Detective does.
Right.
So, oh man, we have got to cover at least the first season. The second season is not as good, but I do like it, and the third season's really good. I like the third season as well. Was it third season is Mahershala Ali, and second season is Vince Vaughn as the main star.
Oh really? Wow. Yeah, I'm aware of Mahershala Ali.
Dude, season 3 is good. I was oh, I'll watch it. I was gonna start. It's oh, I'll watch a couple episodes and then I'll go to bed. And it's no, I ended up watching the whole fucking season in one go. That's how good it was, and that's how it was with season 1. It got me.
Okay,
so
for sure then, yeah. Well, yeah, we'll work it in somehow.
Yeah, but no, Bong Joon-ho, this is I think this is, I mean, this is a beloved film of his. and obviously like this is one of those great like actor director collaborations that doesn't get talked about, but like Bong Joon-ho and um what's his name? Sorry, I'm drawing a blank on his name at the moment. And
Kang-ho-san.
Song Kang-ho, like how many films have they done together?
Mm.
He seems like he's in like a lot of his films. And he's just like one of those because I think he's in I think the guy also does a lot of work with Park Chan-wook as well.
Mm.
Like they just like he's like one of like the top Korean actors. Like you just see like he's always working on stuff. But like these two, like that Bong Joon-ho, he is a a frequent collaborator. And we talked about him in Parasites. Trying to think of like what other film that we have we done another Bong Joon-ho film?
Snowpiercer.
Snowpiercer. He's in that too.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that movie's fucking great too. Um, but yeah, I would say like if you like a good investigative movie, there's not like a ton of comedy in this. There's a little bit like
Yeah, there are humorous elements. Yes.
his partner is fucking hilarious. Like he's
Yeah.
like doing like these like crazy like jump kicks at guys. I'm like,
Well,
dude,
even uh, Kang-ho-san's character too. He like the detective that came from Seoul. You know, he
yeah,
initially thought he was the attacker. He just like from a hill, like like going downwards. He's like fucking drop kicks that guy.
he's like check yeah. It's
Yeah,
like jump kick. Like what the fuck?
Yes, yeah. And for those of you unaware, Seki is like saying faster.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but it's really fascinating because where the murders happen, it's like in the more in the countryside, more like rural area,
You're right.
and so like they don't have like the resources of like the big cities like Seoul or
This
whatever.
this would be like in the case of we haven't done this movie yet, but in the heat of the night, like that those murders take place in like the middle of nowhere in like bumfuckville,
Mm-hmm.
and you have like this big city like cop that just like they arrest him for some reason, thinking that like he might be involved, but it turns out he's a policeman. So and he ends up having to help them to solve this case because he has um, he's dealt with crimes like that.
Right, and I wouldn't be surprised if Bong Joon-ho like took inspiration from that because it was very much like a similar kind of vibe because
That's like
because like when Song Kang-ho's character he's trying to like kind of cordon off the scene, like no one listens to him. He's like on the megaphone like, hey, get those reporters back, get those people back. And there's like there was like a footprint that was like pretty crucial to the case, and then a tractor comes by and he tries to wave him down, like, hey, stop, don't go that way, don't go. And the tractor just like completely wipes out that footprint.
oh, dude, that's probably why the case went unsolved for so long is because of shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm sure that happened.
Yeah, but then like
Especially in Korea.
yeah, but then another like murder happens, and then like the detective from Seoul, he gets on the bullhorn and is like, I'm not fucking around, and he like lets everyone know, like, don't anyone fuck with this scene, get those people back, and he kind of like the big daddy character and has to like lay it down.
Yeah, it's stuff, yeah, and that you bring that I kind of just brought this up as like a thing, but like yeah, I wonder if Bong Joon-ho did watch In the Heat of the Night and it's like yeah, I'm gonna have my character kind of have that like Mr. Tibbs type of character, um, where it's like yeah, he's gonna bring the experience and like how to deal with this stuff instead of like like the kind
Right,
of
because
in detectives.
right, because the detective from Seoul, like he's the one that kind of pieces things together and like and tells like the chiefs like, oh hey, this I've noticed that this that and like
Hey,
he's like bringing like real kind of like detective work.
yeah.
And I mean yeah, because like you know, because Kang Sang Sang Song Kang-ho's character, like he's a detective, but he's like like he's the he's from that small town.
He's doing his best, like
Yeah, he's doing his best with what he's got, and like
yeah.
and sometimes it's like he has to like maybe plant evidence, or he has to beat the confession out of some people.
His partner like jump kicks like the guy like in the
right,
parking
and
lot.
like he puts in because his partner wears boots all the time, and so like he has to put on like a little booty thing before he stomps the shit out of them.
Yeah.
And so it's and it's like and he's trying to like coerce these confessions out of these suspects. And like up to the point like where he goes and sees like the local shaman and tries to get like tries to get like the supernatural involved in trying to solve this case.
Yeah. Do you know how many times they do that like in this country too? Like when they like
when they go to psychics to try to find to find missing persons. Yeah.
Like good lord. I mean, if you like I said, that should be like your like after like your that should be like the 10th thing after your last fucking option, like to go after a freaking like shaman or like a psychic, for God's sakes. I mean, it's like we really have no fucking clues, so have at it.
He's like, you got anything? I don't got anything. I don't got anything either. Shaman?
Sure. Yeah, that because I'm like I look at that, I was like, they have nothing.
Yeah, they literally have nothing.
But what did you like this movie a lot?
I did like this movie. I don't know if I could say a lot, but I did like this movie.
I'm actually like, because I'm a fan of like Bong Joon-ho. I like his movies a lot. Mm-hmm. The only one I haven't seen, because I've actually watched all of his films, mm-hmm. except for Okja. I've not seen that.
Oh, I haven't seen that one either.
Maybe we'll do that like some point. Like, but I'm actually wanting to buy the Criterion version of this movie because, one of the things I like about the Criterion Blu-rays is all the supplemental stuff. Like, you know me, I'm a nerd, so I want to
features.
Yeah, I want to listen to like the interviews with the cast and people talking about the films and like what makes the film special. And this is when it comes to Korean film, this is one of those that is, kind of like people talk about. This is considered like one of the greats. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's just because of, Bong Joon-ho and the cast that's involved, or because it's like it is technically a true crime movie. Like this is a crime that really happened. Mm-hmm. And people are into that stuff. Like it's, so is that what made it big? Or was it like the brilliance of, or is it the brilliance of Bong Joon-ho that made this movie like really good? It's kind of the same, like with stuff like Parasite or Snowpiercer, or like some of his other films. Like those are semi-original stories, and I. But like this one, this is a little bit different than his other films. And so I kind of like wonder, why this. I think it is a classic that should be watched and rewatched and has a lot to offer. But I'm wondering, like, what, why this one is so revered. Is it the story itself, or is it like the cinematography? What is it that makes this movie so special?
Well, I think it's because, just personally, I think it's because it doesn't resolve anything, and so like we're still like on the hook, so we're still like, we don't know who the killer is, and so I think that little thing.
Because I think that's also what makes Zodiac so special.
Right. Yeah. We don't know who the killer is, and I think that kind of leaves a splinter in people's mind where it's like, who could it have been? You know.
Right.
And like it could could it have been the last suspect that they brought in? Even though the DNA test came back as negative.
What now? Refresh my, because like you said, it's been a while since I've seen this movie. Wasn't there like the confrontation between um, the detective and the guy and the supposed suspect in the tunnel?
Yes, there is. There, yeah.
Okay,
The detective from Seoul, um, he gets personally invested in it because the latest victim is a young girl who he met at the local I think junior high or high school.
right. Okay, yeah, right. Okay.
And so that kind of pushes him over the edge. Even though during the entire movie, Kang-ho Song's character is the kind of like the loose cannon where the sole detective is like constantly trying to like
That's
reel
right.
in.
Okay. Yeah, that's that it, because where like it almost shifts where like then like it's the country detectives like are like more composed than what
Mhm.
the detective from Seoul becomes, because he gets too personally invested. It's like, and that little girl that he interacted with is like, because he didn't do enough to save that girl, now she's dead.
Right.
And so now he's invested and he thinks that he's found the guy, which he has not.
Mhm.
And it's like he wants like he doesn't end up killing him, right? Like he just like
No.
he tries to, but it
Yeah.
doesn't. He ends up like restraining himself at the last second.
Hmm. Or no, uh, Kang-ho, his character comes in at the last minute with like the results, and like he like even after reading the results, like he was ready to kill him.
He is not the father. No.
Yeah, it's not the. Yeah, but the other detective, he's like ready to kill this guy. Even though he just read like that it wasn't him, like he was ready to kill him.
That guy
Like
is fucking like shady as shit. Like that guy has done something.
yeah, he does give off a creepy vibe, and like he may not have killed like been responsible for the killings, like particularly of like the young girl, but he's guilty of something. And I think, and if I'm remembering correctly, it's like they said that there was like some similarities, but like it wasn't like a complete match.
Yeah, it's just like but it's not like conclusive.
Yeah, it's not conclusive enough to say that yes, this is the killer.
And I think that's a brilliant way to end this film,
Mm-hmm.
because like you said, oh, that's the that's the thing to keep you going back to the movie, because at the time it was an unsolved case. So you're like, so you're gonna give a little bit of like some suspects and like some fantasy to it, right? Like, because obviously this guy isn't the real murderer of the real case.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna like, oh, did this, based off like what we've seen, did this guy really kill people? Is he the murderer that they've been looking for? Is he just like some other weird creepo that like we happen to find, and maybe he's a murderer or something else that we found?
Mm-hmm.
Or is he completely innocent? It's just a weirdo.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I think that's maybe I think people like that type of ending sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
That's where like Zodiac is like, it's like, because that is a unsolved case, and like it does not end on like a with a nice neat bow at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, dude, that guy is probably the killer, but like he's not. But like some stuff doesn't match up. Like he doesn't have this or that, and
Mm-hmm.
God, who knows? It's and so you're left in like this weird feeling like, well, the movie's over, but it's not over.
Mm-hmm. Right, and it's interesting, like, because the last scene is, Kang-ho's character, he's married his girlfriend or whatever, had a family, he's
Yeah.
moved on from being a policeman, but then, he's driving through town through the country, and then he sees the location where it in the beginning of the movie, and he gets out and he goes and kind of reminisces, and then a little girl comes by and it's like, hey, what are you doing there? And then he tells her that, oh, I'm just reminiscing. And then she goes, oh, that's funny because someone yesterday was by, and he said that he was like looking in that same storm drain, and he said that he was
Killer.
reminiscing too.
Could have been the killer. Could have been another one of the other detectives. Could have been some. Who knows?
Right, and and then you get and then he gets kind of curious, and so he asks the little girl like, "Oh, what did he look like?" And then she, it was kind of hard for her to describe, but she's just like, "Oh, he just looked like any other guy."
Yeah, and that's kind of like I liken the detective from Soul to be like the Mark Ruffalo character like in Zodiac, and then
I still have to watch that, but
dude, I'm telling you that movie is fucking great.
Okay,
And you're gonna
it's in the queue.
No, you're gonna see the connections to this film because this film came out before Zodiac.
Okay.
And you're gonna see this like the cinematic archaeology to like, oh shit, like they borrowed a bunch of shit from this film.
Mm-hmm.
And like what I say, they're very different films, but at the same time they're doing the same thing.
Right.
And like I said, this like case over time that doesn't, and I don't know if um the Zodiac killings like were because they were very popular here, like it was a very infamous case that was going on.
In California, yeah, San Francisco.
Yeah. And I wonder if like this case in Korea had the same type of impact back in like, that 80s, early 90s when it was going on, because I imagine that to have been very shocking at that time in Korea. And I would have to maybe ask someone who lived in that area at the time, which I don't know. Well, my in-laws are coming in a couple weeks. Maybe they'll know. Maybe I can ask them.
Mm-hmm.
That actually might be a movie I watch with like my father-in-law
Uh-huh.
to see if like and then like ask him about like do you remember hearing about this like back then?
Right. And he might.
I think that might be a good movie for us all four of us to watch because like my mother-in-law and my father-in-law are gonna come into town.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna see if like they'd be interested in watching this film, and then us talking about like, hey, because this is a real case, like how, and because I know I'm not sure like where they live, but I was like, did you remember hearing about this case? Like, how did it impact you in a certain way? What did you hear about it? So maybe I'll get back. Maybe I'll do that, and I'll get back to you about this film.
Yeah, please do. I would love to hear about this.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear their thoughts about it because this would be, I think this would be because their English is obviously not like great. So, but I was curious, like of Korean films that I would like to watch with them.
Uh-huh.
This would be one of them.
Mm.
Well, that's really all I have to say. And with this film, I do think I do see a lot of like the cinematic archaeology that we love to talk about. I see stuff like like I said in Zodiac. I see True Detective in this, um, and I think it's a great film. I see why people love it so much. I'm eventually gonna buy the Criterion edition of this film because it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
But before we give her, I'll let you go first because you recently watched this. What did do you have any final thoughts, or do you want to, or you just, maybe you can give that like through your rating. Like, what did you think about it? What would you rate this film at?
Okay. We'll just go into ratings. I'm gonna give it a 4.
Okay.
Yeah. certain elements I don't think were wholly necessary. I don't think um, uh, what is it when Kang-ho's character's partner is like demoted or reprimanded by the chief. Like he goes on like that drunken kind of uh, rampage. I don't think is wholly necessary.
Quick. So quick, because I'm trying. Like I said, I'm trying to remember the film. That so when he goes on that drunken tirade, isn't that like where like the kind of the mentally challenged guy that like isn't he like in that same place?
He is, but
Because
but
because I was trying to think like, am I? Because there's two movies that I think like I was. That's why I'm asking because I'm trying not to mix it up with another film that. Did you ever watch Mother?
I haven't.
Okay, so because there's I am trying to I'm trying not to mix those two films up because there's some
Mm-hmm.
similarities between them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they were in that like kind of that bar, and one of the eyewitness, the mentally challenged eyewitness was there as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't he accidentally like
Yeah,
hit him or something like that?
he attack like he basically impales him with a board with a nail in it, and it turns out
That's
to be
right.
a rusty
That's
nail, which
right.
eventually leads to the amputation of that detective's leg.
That's
But initially, he's reprimanded because they had because he's because in the interrogation room he'd be stomping the shit out of suspects.
that's right.
Um,
Yeah.
and so like this latest one, it was a guy who's just like uh, one of the suspects that they brought in was just happened to be a pervert, and and just kind of sex starved because his wife has cancer or whatever, and like he can't have sex all the time, so he goes out to random places and jerks off. Um,
Jesus Christ.
but yeah, and so like yeah,
Which is
so
fucking weird. Don't go out to random places and jerk off, guys, because
well,
they're
I
gonna
mean,
think.
because yeah, I mean, you would think it'd be weird that he goes off into like random open air places, but it's like you have to think in context of Korea. It's like they live in tiny houses, like with very little privacy. And he has a wife who's like dying of cancer, and like he also has two kids in the house, so it's not like he can find a place to jerk off in the house.
Touche, touche. That's
Um,
true.
yeah. So just kind of keeping it, kind of keep in mind the context of where this is happening. But yeah, like he stomps the shit out of this guy, and but he turns out to be kind of a pillar in his community. Like he's really involved in his local church and everything, and like there's even protests by the parishioners for him to be released.
That's right.
And so uh, you know so the chief tells the detective, "Hey, stay away from this guy," but he just couldn't help himself and starts beating the shit out of him, and so he is then like taken off the case or whatever, and then that's when he goes and like drowns his sorrows in soju.
So, but those are the things that you would say. Like, was it like him going on his bender that you would like cut out of the film, or is it like the part where like he beats the shit out of this guy that like ends up not being?
Yeah, the bender where he changes the channel, and then he hears news about the case that's going on, and then he just starts attacking random people. I think he punches a woman. I think he pulls a Clint Eastwood and punches a woman.
Oh yeah, that's right. He does. He does. Oh man, that's right.
Yeah, which then like her male companions like take umbrage with this and start beating the shit out of him. And then the mentally retarded witness, like that's when he like kind of like pops up and like he just like takes a board to him without realizing there's a nail in it. Um, I don't know. I don't think. I don't. I don't know if that's whole like that entire scene is wholly necessary for the film.
I think like the only thing I think is necessary like from that scene is because he does end up attacking the victim, the witness.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess so. But yeah.
Because that ends up being a very important thing. Because I think that
Right, because the detective from Seoul and then the local detective, like they finally they kind of come together. You know, it's like, oh shoot, like the reason why he was able to give such a detailed description of the events, because
he was
he
there.
didn't do it, but he was there, so he's like
Yeah,
a witness. And so like, they go chase him down because because he gets freaked, because the mentally retarded guy, he gets freaked out and then runs up a power pole, because he's afraid that that other detective that was going on the drunken rampage is going to
rampage.
come after him. But those two detectives come and like they're trying to coax them down. Like, oh, you're not going to be in trouble. Just come down and talk to us. But experience, kind of tells them different. It's like, oh, I can't trust these guys because they're just going to beat my ass.
Yeah, but like, but I understand what you're saying. Is like you didn't necessarily like the how that scene played out.
Or
Maybe
yeah, like that. Them getting to the mentally retarded witness could have easily been achieved some other way.
yeah. Okay, so you're a 4 out of 5 on this.
I'm a 4 out of 5.
I'm inclined to agree. I think this is a great investigative film.
Mm-hmm.
I love that it's based off of a true story, and they didn't like the thing is like they kind of stuck with the idea that it is unsolved. They didn't try to solve it, and in a lot that to me, I'm trying to think of it. I can't think of like another film that kind of goes unsolved like that. Like another movie that does like something like that. Now,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, like Zodiac has done that since, and I'm sure I'm trying to think. There's probably another film since then that's done that, but this may have been like the first of its time to do something like that, where like it does. There's been other movies that like leave things open like that,
Mm-hmm.
but not when it comes to a real case.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really interesting. Of well, because what you call it? Like the first Dirty Harry film is
Mm-hmm.
also based off the Zodiac killings.
Mm.
The killer in that is based off the Zodiac killings, but they end up Dirty Harry finds the killer and kills him. So
Mm.
it's a based off of a real story, but doesn't actually like but it's like it's fictionalized, right? But like this is based off of a real case, and yeah, there's stuff that's probably fictionalized a little bit,
Uh-huh.
but like it leaves it open ended, and I can't really think of like another film that had done that up to that point.
Mm.
And like I said, if I'm wrong, please tell me, and like remind me of the film because I would love to know. But this feels like this is like the first of its kind.
Mm. Well, what about the first Scream? Like there was no, they let you in on who the killer is.
No, but here's the thing: it's not based off of a real story.
Ah, okay.
That's
Ah,
what
I see.
I'm talking
Okay,
about.
yeah.
Like,
So based off, so you're talking about based off true stories.
yes, yeah, yeah. No, I'm not saying like a movie that like leaves things open ended. That's happened for since the beginning of film.
Yeah, time
But
immemorial.
as far as like telling a real story based off of like of a real crime, and then kind of like sticking to like the reality of the story,
Mm-hmm.
where you don't find the criminal, you don't like it's unsolved.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess I can't think of one
Like
based off a true crime.
like the two films I can think about are this one and Zodiac.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I
Yeah.
said, could like I could be wrong, but I think this is the first of its kind.
Mm.
So I also would like I said, I also would give this a 4 out of 5. I think it's a great film, it's a film that I'm gonna watch again. I actually may watch it again this week, just for the hell of it.
Uh-huh.
And like I said, this was not the film I was expecting to talk about today, but it I think it's a great film. It's one of Bong Joon-ho's best. One of his earlier films. I'm trying to think. Like, this is not his first film, I think, but it's like what is like second or third.
Mm.
Because Parasite is his most recent, but and then Snowpiercer comes a couple years after this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. Let's take a look. Hold on. His filmography.
Oh, The Host.
Yeah. Oh. So this is his second film.
Uh-huh. And
Yeah,
then
because he did.
Mickey 17, whatever that is.
Oh, so no. Okay, so there's two movies I haven't seen of his.
Mm.
Mickey 17 is coming out next year.
Oh,
So,
2024. Yeah.
yeah. So
I thought that was 2014.
yeah, Barking Dogs Never Bite is his first film.
Mm.
Then there's this one, Memories of Murder. The Host.
Uh-huh.
Oh, Mother is another one. That's right. Mother is one of his films.
Mm-hmm.
Mother is fucking great, dude. You should watch Mother.
Okay.
Oh, no, Snowpiercer is 2013. I thought it was like, I thought that was like 2005. Never mind.
Yeah, no.
Then there's
Snowpiercer 2013.
Yeah, then there's Oakjaw. I've never seen that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Parasite. And Parasite was the one that won like Best Picture in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Mickey 17, which is done through Warner Brothers. And I think that is gonna be. I have a feeling it's gonna be like one of those similar to Snowpiercer, like a Korean American collaboration.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna star Robert Pattinson.
Mm.
Oh, and Stephen Yeun's gonna be in it. Cool.
Awesome.
Okay. I'm down for that.
All right.
But yeah, 4 out of 5. I agree with you. I think it's great. I think everyone should watch it. Especially if you love a good like investigative movie, and if you're a fan of Zodiac, watch this film.
Or maybe just the true crime in general.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, folks. There you have it. That's our review of Memories of Murder. Not quite the movie we're intending to, but yeah, there's still elements of memory in this movie.
Yeah.
Both Robert and I give it a 4. Definitely give it a watch. I think you will enjoy it very much.
So here's the homework for you next week, Andy. You're gonna have to watch Memoir of a Murder. Memoir of a Murder. I'll send you the link so you watch the right movie.
Okay.
And we'll lightly talk about that. But next month is a new theme. Now I'm only gonna be here for 2 weeks, so we're doing a kind of a special April theme. We're gonna do double bill month. So the 2 movies I've chosen are, I think, are connected. To me, they're connected. Like there's a lot of influence in both films. And we're going to be doing The Trouble with Harry and Diabolique, which both came out in the same year. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm sorry, repeat that again?
So we're going to be doing The Trouble with Harry from 1955. It's a Hitchcock film. And we're going to be doing Diabolique, which is also from 1955.
All right, just send me the list.
Yeah, because I have to take off 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because your in-laws are coming in.
Yeah, and then I think we still have to settle like what theme we're gonna do with May. I think we were talking about Mitch a month.
I mean, I don't quite remember, but I'm not opposed.
Yeah, so we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. All right, folks, that'll bring us to the end of our stream tonight. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. I know Rob always has a good time.
Even talking about the movie that I was not expecting to talk about, but yeah, I had a great time.
Yeah, if you enjoyed this, don't forget to check out the library of other content that we have. The Circular Jerks main podcast, episodes of Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Rob's gaming show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts, Twitter and Letterboxd at PodcastCOJ, and Instagram at Circle Jerks Podcast. We thank you for joining us tonight. Come back next week, and we'll do it all over again. Have a good night.
Sounds good, buddies.